Well, it's officially that time yet again. This is personally one of my favorite times of the season. Ranking the episodes.
This is the most stressful time. I like tier lists. Those are fun. You know what I mean? And we get to just bounce off each other and say our things at the same time. But here it's like, oh, what's his 10? I mean, it's exciting. Oh, what's his 10 going to be? What's his... I can kind of guess what your 1 to 3 is going to be. But like, I think the more fun ones are like the 5 to 10s. Like, ooh, what are those going to be? But it's always stressful because I know like someone's, you idiot, you know.
Yeah.
So and so is much better than so and so. It's like it doesn't matter. What my list is gonna change right after I say it. 1 and 2, it's like who cares?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Basically for those exact reasons of trying to decide myself, like, which one is my favorite, and not only that, but this season, I think I gave out more S's than you overall. I haven't looked back at the total for you, but there are S's that aren't on my list. That's how many I've given out. And also just my thoughts on some of the episodes might have changed since we watched them, but like, it was hard. It was very difficult. And I always love that we have the patron list as well. That's always fun to see.
That's right.
And we have gotten a lot of new patrons recently, so we got dozens of submissions of lists that I had to compile to make the patron list. So let's go. Well, let's start off with their number 10, and then we can jump into ours. So at number 10, the patrons had The Mind's Eye, the episode with Geordi getting kidnapped and getting to see inside his visor. I really loved that episode. I thought it was great, and obviously introduced the whole Tasha cliffhanger without us knowing at first.
Oh yeah, that was a super fun episode. Just Data with ice in his veins, telling Worf like, that was an order. Get down there, and just going against the grain of knowing what the problem is, and watching someone figure it out. But they did it so well with the tension to where it didn't matter. That's what makes an episode great to me. Is if you can take something I usually can't stand and make it fantastic, and that episode did that.
My number 10 is Brothers.
Thanks to you, dear brother. I spent nearly 2 years drifting in space. I had no alternative.
The episode with three Brent Spiners rather, Data, Lore, and Noonien Soong. If you had told me at the time that we watched that was only going to be number 10, I would have thought you were crazy because I loved that episode so much. That's how tough this list is. I still probably think this is my favorite Brent Spiner performance overall. 3 different performances. And you actually even brought up 4 different performances because you have the Data in the beginning on the Enterprise who gets taken over and kind of just like the robotic Data.
Yeah.
And then regular Data, Lore, Noonien Soong. Brent Spiner's the GOAT. I mean...
Yeah, God, I just want to... I have a picture with them, obviously, but I'd like to just sit down with them and just blow them. Not literally.
Fully functional.
Just be like, so what's it like just being the most underrated actor of all time? Is that tough? I mean, do your android huge balls just, feel unrest from... just being like the best of all time, like just tell me, Brent, and he'll go, "What the fuck?"
I go, "Yeah, man, this is what it is." Since watching the show, I really want to go back and rewatch the stuff that I know he's in that I didn't realize. Like I didn't know Brent Spiner, so like Independence Day. There was actually a clip on TikTok, completely unrelated to Star Trek, a show that he was in. It looked like a court drama type show, and I was like, "That's fucking Brent Spiner." And I like watched the whole clip of it on TikTok, and then like. Had no context of what this show was, but I'm like, he did other stuff.
He did do
it.
It
Looked post-Star. He looked older, so it looked
Okay.
like maybe like 2000s or something like that.
Is that the equivalent of his T.J. Hooker?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
You know that I cannot grieve for you, sir. You will. In your own way.
My number 10 is Data's Day.
Now, smile. Act like you're enjoying yourself.
I love Data's Day. I love the format change. I love just Data interacting with everyone on the ship all within one day. We're also used to just time jumping all the time, but just to slow it down and have it just sit with Data for the day and just like, oh, he's picking out a gift for the wedding. And, oh, it'll be great. I'm going to go tell him that the wedding's canceled. It'll make Keiko like all that goofy comedy stuff was just fantastic. The ending with Data being the guy who runs the ship at night, just Love it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll just say now, shockingly, that actually isn't on my list.
Okay. Okay.
But I agree with everything you said. It just didn't make my list.
Yeah, an amazing episode, and it's number 10. So there you go.
My hair does not require trimming, you lunkhead.
What?
My hair does not require trimming.
Lunkhead?
My number 9 is Reunion,
Just commendation.
I've heard. So now what? I have to perform some ridiculous ritual to talk to you?
which is the return of Kalar.
I was wondering if this was even going to be on your list because of how angry you were. You were able to look past it.
I was able to look past it because one, Kalar is back. Continuation of the Klingon lore, the introduction of Worf's son. Could have been higher if Kalar lived, but for now, just send a 9.
So for my number 9, this is, I'll fully admit, my guilty pleasure of the season. The Host!
If you're going to leave, you better go right now.
I'm not leaving.
I love this episode so much, and it's not the best episode of all time or anything, and it's obviously silly, but it's just like, I don't know. This was the most fun I had watching this show this season. You know, it reminds me of like the Private Little Wars or, the Big Goodbye for You. You know, it's like just that pure fun and basic kind of stupidity also. Just like, this is so dumb, but it's like awesome that they did it. And the fact that they actually pushed it all the way to not, she makes out with Riker heavily. They have sex off screen, even though they don't confirm it. They did. Just like all that stuff was so hilarious. And the guy who played the first human of the parasite was actually pretty good. He's like had like an unlikable charm about him, kind of like Rawl from last season, the Troy love interest. Mm-hmm. And then everything when it switched around bodies, and then the woman at the end, like it was just great.
Someday, our ability to love won't be so limited.
The patrons at number 9 had Remember Me, and I'm shocked that made their list because people liked it for sure when our reaction went up, but I don't think there was the massive love I have for it, and then you really loved it as well. Mm-hmm. So I was surprised they made their list. I was glad to see that. And number 8 for them was Brothers. Okay. So they enjoyed Brothers a little bit more than me, but still not super high for them. My number 8 is Clues. I love Clues a lot. The opening, Dixon Hill opening, the unfortunately only taste of Dixon Hill we got this season with Whoopi Goldberg in there was great. Cleveland mention. And then the whole mystery aspect was awesome. Data being the only one who knows what's going on. Troy getting possessed. There was some silliness in there too with that. Troy throwing Worf, by his wrist. Someone had brought up that I hadn't even thought about. They never at any point say because she was like possessed that she had super strength. So like in theory, you could headcanon that Troy's actually just that strong and like just doesn't do it,
Oh yeah.
Or maybe doesn't like access it or isn't aware of it, But she is half Betazoid. What does that mean in terms of strength? I don't know. Not that Betazoids we've seen have been necessarily that strong, but I thought that was interesting. But the whole thing, I really loved it. And then the whole thing with Chief, where where Beverly comes in, he hurt his he hurt something. Was it his wrist? I think it was, no, that was Worf. He hurt his shoulder, I think, or something. And then she comes into the transporter room and he's like, I hope this isn't a home visit. It's just always so great with whenever he has a medical problem, it's always the most hilarious scene of the episode.
For sure. I got to bring it up. Just like that scene from Transfigurations. Wait, what? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was Transfiguration.
My number 8 is Brothers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like everything you said, the 4 Brent Spiners. Lore's back. Noonien soon. Everything. And Lore escapes once again. He's out there somewhere. And just the acting ability of Brent Spiner, just conveying all this emotion between Data and Noonien Soong, and like, you'll mourn in your own way. And then all that was just taken away, and it ends with him and his cat.
Oh, in theory, yeah.
In theory, yeah. But no, I love Brothers.
And let's not forget about Noonien Soong, Brent Spiner's bump that he takes when Lore just throws him.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah, one of the best moments too, the Lore reveal, because they kept teasing us like, it's gonna be Lore, because it's called Brothers, and the B plot with the kids, whatever, and then the reveal where like it shows like the shoes, like after he arrives to Soong's place, and like the pan up, and it's like, is it him? Is it him? But we don't know because he's not saying anything, and then Lore, and then they turn him on as soon as it gets turned on or out of the state.
Yeah. And they're like, no. Yeah.
And he took over a Pac-led ship or something. It's like, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I had my issues that I stated at the time with the reveal, just from like how I would have liked to have seen it, but quality-wise of the episode, it's like the only complaint I could have would be, stay with the 3 Brent Spiners, because it's like every time I come back to the ship, I'm like, come on, let's see more of it, because I love it, but I'm sure it was hard to film and all those things too.
Oh, the kid's getting more sick. Okay.
You're right on time.
My 7 is Half a Life.
Wow, okay.
Just to take a Lwaxana Troy episode, flip it on its head, bring in possibly the best guest actor one-off, and make me emotionally invested in this person and this fake relationship, and see the vulnerable side of Lwaxana Troy was so wonderfully refreshing, to where I was more emotional during this than all Worf's stuff in the finale. This episode hurt me, like in a good way, similar to a 500 Days of Summer and other stuff, where it God, like that tragic story is going to sit with me for a while, and I don't like it, but I love it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that is the perfect example of premise versus execution. On paper, you're talking about Lwaxana Troy meeting a random dude, and us caring more about this random dude possibly going to get killed because that's their culture, versus Worf leaving the Enterprise to go fight a Klingon Civil War, and we got more emotionally invested in the former. Like, that is the execution aspect.
Yeah, it would. Bravo. Bravo.
You will never be one of those who dies before they die.
My number 7 is Night Terrors. The thing with Night Terrors is that it's all about like the moments for me. Like the scene in the morgue with Beverly will stick with me forever. Where are you? That won't. But yeah. Of course, now I say that I'm struggling to think of the other ones. Riker in his quarters, looking over his shoulder. A lot of the great, just like, I can't remember, was it Cliff Bull that directed that one? I can't remember. I think it might have been, but whoever directed that one could have been a great horror director. I loved all that there, and this just goes to show one thing I really loved about this season as a whole is the variety of the episodes. What I love about TNG, especially this season, they don't try to just fit in their box. Like, they don't just go, okay, well, we're a sci-fi show in space. What can we do with those elements? Like, they just throw that all out the window, and they're like, let's make whatever the hell we want, and then make it fit into what we've already built here. And they do it perfectly, time and time again this season. Was this the best episode ever, like, with Troy floating and the wire work? Like, no. But, like, that's the type of stuff I feel like we don't really care about, or, like, we excuse, as to where, like, other people will excuse things we harp on for 10 minutes. Like, we'll excuse things like Troy looks goofy in a dream scenario. Like, I don't care. She's having a dream. Like, it's whatever. The stuff in here that I love outweighs that so much that it makes the episode what it is.
And it was different. It wasn't like I wouldn't consider it maybe on a rewatch, I'm like, oh, this does look goofy. But the fact that we've never seen something like that before, Troy floating through green space, green clouds, like, what is going on? And one of the best episodes in terms of not telling us at all what's going on, and that was so great about it. It's like, what's happening? Why is this happening?
So the patrons, they're number 7. Data's Day. So they're staying with, they had Brothers at 8, Data's Day at 7. So that's kind of where they ranked the Data-related episodes. And then their number 6, this is my first. I'm shocked they have it this low for them and everything we heard about it. Best of Both Worlds Part 2.
I knew it. Credit to them, because I totally thought if it's the highest rated on IMDb, it's going to be the highest rated for them because it's that episode. You know what I mean?
And if that's someone's number 1, cool, whatever. Like, there were people that obviously had it number 1 on theirs, but I thought it would be much higher on the overall as well, and it was number 6.
Because for the most part, they've been whatever the general consensus is of, oh, this is the best episode of the season they've agreed on. So I'm glad they put it so low. Good for you guys.
Yeah, I will say that the top 5 is, it is pretty close. There wasn't a huge runaway winner like last season for the patrons. Best of Both Worlds and yesterday's Enterprise were like up here, and then everything else, it was like a huge gap.
Yeah.
This is much more like the list is very, pretty close together. But yeah, I'm still shocked that it's at that number for them. And speaking of that, for me, my number 6 is Reunion. Has nothing to do with that one. So I guess I liked it a little bit more than you. I didn't get as angry at the Kalar death as you because I try to take character deaths. I try to view them in the lens of like, okay, just like in the real world, people can die and it sucks and it's, oh, that shouldn't have happened, like a tragic accident, someone gets killed, whatever the case. And I try to, like, in the universe of the show, even though I'm mad at the writer and I'm mad at the showrunner for doing it, I try to think of it like, okay, in this universe, this character got killed, and that sucks. But that could happen. Like, there could be a senseless death. So, let's go from there. Would I have done that if I was writing the show? No. I just feel like the episode itself was so great. I do wish it was better. Like, I wish it was like they took some stuff out, like you said, take some stuff out of there, make it, spread it out more. But there's a reason that I'm sitting here nitpicking it, and it's still number 6 for the season. Like, that's how great it was. In the moment of Worf killing Duras,
yes,
with
we
the
didn't
bat
talk about
lift,
that. Yeah,
I mean, that's talking about a moment that'll stick with me forever. I jumped. I was shocked. I was like, oh, it's gonna be the Captain America, Civil War, or to the side of him. No, just fucking kills him.
just kills him. Yeah, and him taking off the sash, like, I'm not doing this as a Klingon. Takes off the pin. I'm not even doing this as a member of Starfleet. I'm doing this as a man, as a lover. It's like, God, and in fact, they did kill him, and he's like, yeah, I did it.
And Picard just like, well, the Klingons consider it closed. So, and I love following up in Redemption. Everyone just hated Duras. Like every time,
everyone knew.
Yeah, every time he came to a Klingon, they're like, oh yeah, thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this stuff happens in real life. It's like, well, if I wanted to watch real life, I turn on the news. Don't kill my favorite character.
I need you, too. You're a part of me, Worf.
My number 6 is The Wounded.
It's not you I hate, Cardassian. I hate what I became because of you.
The Chief O'Brien episode. And we're getting to that point where it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. We're in the end game now. Yeah, I love this episode. A Chief O'Brien episode introducing the new big bad, like we talked about in the overall recap. Just the balls to just put the ball in Colomini's court. I mean, no, not the balls. They knew what they had. It's like, it's like this guy's not even in the credits. The opening credits, and they put an entire episode around him and the guy from Shawshank Redemption, and just the tension, the new characters, the resolution of just O'Brien and this guy just singing the old songs they used to sing on the bridge of his ship, just the ending scene, cinema.
Though all the world betrays thee.
Which brings me to number 5, and that is The Nth Degree. I have a very special place in my heart for Barclay.
That was a real improvement.
Same time? Day after tomorrow?
Same time.
His performance in his 2 episodes is fantastic. The resolution is cute with a little callback to The Final Frontier. That's what it's called, right? Star Trek V. Yeah, with not really a callback, but similar. Yeah, Dwight Schultz is just, in my opinion, a powerhouse of an actor, and I feel like if they wanted, he could be similar to a Chief O'Brien, just a recurring character. But I don't want his. If they do bring him back, I don't want him to be a stumbling idiot and then a confidence every single time. He gets a date with Troy. Just yeah, I love the episode.
Yeah, that's fair. I will say that it didn't make my list. I wasn't as high on it as you. So like we had 2 episodes where we were really different this season. This one was the one that you loved that I just thought was fine, and then Devil's Due I really loved and you just thought was fine. Devil's Due also isn't on my list. That is a clear guilty pleasure-esque. Like I just loved Ardra. It reminded me of like the Harry Mudd of this series, and the episode itself is not of the quality that's going to make this list. And I usually like to, if I'm going to have like a guilty pleasure spot on the list, like I can't have too many. And, I just had so much more fun with the host that kind of took that spot for me. But even with that, even that aside, Devil's Due was not, at that caliber for me. But I'm not surprised that the Nth Degree is on your list. And what I was more surprised at is how much of a fan favorite that episode is. Like, everyone loved that episode, except me apparently.
I was totally expecting, because the things I love, it's usually the opposite for our patrons and commenters. And I saw everyone was putting over Barkley. I'm like, yes.
Captain will do everything in his power to stop you.
So this is where it got really tough for me. My top 5 is where I would draw the line of like, these are all just like perfect episodes to the point where I wouldn't really change a single thing, and they could really go in any order, but I had to put them in an order. So my number 5 is Future Imperfect.
What else do you remember, Captain?
The Riker Inception episode.
Okay.
That is, to me, when I say like, oh, give me weird stuff in Star Trek, like that's what I want. Like Riker thinks that he wakes up years later after this coma, but then no, because they have a callback to Minuet from season 1, he realizes that it's not real and that he's actually on a Romulan holodeck simulation. But then no, that's not real either. Like maybe that's something that's only going to hit me that hard on the first watch, even though I did rewatch that and I liked it again. But that's one of those where like the first watch was so strong that it's like, that's a great one. And it's like probably my favorite Riker episode as I'm thinking about it. Like him as the focus. Yeah, I really loved it. Tomalak in person, only time so far, and it wasn't real.
And it wasn't even real. Making us wait for that one.
Also, the alien suit at the end is like, again, goofy shit that I love. Like everyone was ripping on how bad that practical suit was. Yeah. Like that's what I like. It's like
my name is Beetleborg. You'll always be Jean-Luc to me.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's not my name.
And then the patrons, number 5. Let's see. So the patrons actually for number 4 and 5 had a tie. And what I usually do for ties is go back and see which one had more number 1s on the list. Mm-hmm. And they both had 6 lists from patrons that had it as their number 1. So I was like, I'm not going through again and doing number 2. So
those number 2s.
Yeah, they're tied. And the tie is between The Wounded and The Drumhead. Tied. And I totally get that. 2 different episodes, very different episodes, but both kind of symbolize great things about Star Trek. So we'll just say that they're both in 4th place / 5th place for the patrons. And then that leads me to my number 4 then, right?
Yeah, I said my 5, which
means
you would have said so you're number 4.
So my number 4 was The Wounded.
Kelp buds, plankton loaf, and sea berries.
Okay.
I loved The Wounded so much. I already talked about the Cardassians and how much I loved them. The Chief stuff was excellent. I harped on it a little bit, and I wouldn't say harped on it. I had some notes, some writing notes about the chief scene, about his retelling of what happened, and I wanted it to be a little bit darker. But even that aside, like it was excellent, and it's definitely Colm best scene thus far. Not Omini, Colomini, his best scene so far in the show, and just the Cardassian just looking at him afterwards. Or how about in the turbo lift when he's like, I don't have to hang out with you in my free time.
Yeah, if Captain Picard orders me to tell you things, I will. But in my own personal free time, he's just like super close to him. It's like, oh,
Yeah. And then also he says to Picard, when they're talking about it, he's like, oh, well, you learn not to turn your back on these people. And then Picard at the end of the episode turns his back on him. Just,
that might even bump it up a point for me. I didn't even realize that.
So that was my number 4. What about you?
I was more focused in that scene. I was more focused on the. I think we both were when we watched it. When he said these people. It's like,
Yeah. It's
we were like, oh,
yeah.
Chief 2 for 2 with the racist comment.
Bro, we get it. You're Irish. Jesus.
Angrily typing Irishman right now.
I'm Irish and I'm not racist at all. Yeah, it's a joke.
My number 4 is the Drumhead.
Yeah.
Just an amazing episode. A little bit of a trial type thing.
I will expose you for what you are. I brought down bigger men than you, Picard.
Great Worf and Picard scenes. Picard just completely owning this woman, and they have this nice scene. Oh, we're gonna work together. It's great, and she throws him under the bus. And Picard, being Picard, using his words. Oh, remember that nice story you told me about your father? Well, here's a quote. You know who that's from? Your father. And just one of the best. Everyone leaves the room and just leaves her to sit there with her witch hunting, bitchy ass self sitting there. It's like, and even shut up that Betazoid. It's like, oh, I don't know. Nice little cute guest performance from that half Vulcan guy, or half quarter Romulan. Their grandfather was a Romulan.
Yeah, quarter Romulan, yeah.
Yeah, how did that happen? I don't know. But no, just fantastic. And just the lines about, just the evilness of humanity. We like to think we're so advanced, but like all that evil is like right on the cusp, and we just can't let it win. We think we're so much better, but it's like, it's right there to going back to the Dark Ages, and we can't let it. I'm like, yes!
The Federation does have enemies. We must seek them out.
That's how it starts.
We were pretty in line there. The patrons had those two tied for 4. That's each of our 4s, the different ones. That's pretty funny.
That's good. Getting pretty close.
But now top 3.
Oh, top 3. Number 3 is family.
Damn you!
Oh, nice.
It's family. I mean, I think that was the episode we're halfway through, or not even halfway through. I'm like, give me the whiteboard. S. Just everything I've ever wanted from a Star Trek episode, where there's literally no stakes, all grief, all continuation of problems in the past. I love Picard's brother. I love their scenes together. I love the fight. I love the post-fight where they're both like laughing in the mud. I love the goodbye between those two. The stuff with Worf's parents, it's whatever. It's fine. But the stuff, I think everything with Picard at the chateau just... And then there was good stuff with Worf's parents. Not all of it was terrible. There was good stuff there. It's just everything... And, Picard's nephew, whatever. Just stuff with the brothers. It just hit home for me.
Yeah, I really loved the episode too. So let's start it here. These lists are going to be controversial, so let's get into that. So family's not on my list, and I really loved the episode. This is such a good season, and there are so many good episodes that I think your list is going to come down to like a lot more personal preference than normal, because there really isn't like that that episode that's like, oh, that's it. Like last season, yesterday's Enterprise. Like, that's not my favorite episode. It's on my list. So like, with this one, I really, really like family. But if there's an episode where something I just genuinely didn't like at all and was let down by, it's just not going to be able to make my list. And it was Jack Crusher in this episode for me. I didn't like the performance. I didn't like the writing. I didn't like the execution. And I'm not going to rehash it all. But that's in the episode. Like, I can't just ignore it. And so, like, I didn't give it an S at the time. I gave it an A. And I just kind of feel the same way still when I was making my list. And I was like, wow, that's really not going to be on here. There's so much in here I love because I agree with most of that. But it's like, yeah, the stuff with Picard and his brother was awesome. But it's like, and then like the guy and his stuff with Worf's parents, right? But it's like, I really was disappointed with the Jack Crusher stuff, so I can't ignore that. I respect how well liked that episode is, and I respect what it means to a lot of people. It doesn't mean it to me, so it is what it is. I can't lie about it. But it being that high on your list, like, obviously doesn't surprise me because I mean it's exactly what exactly what you want. Like, similar to the bonding, similar to the 45 minutes of grief, for sure. So the bonding, the only flaw with that is that it wasn't 45 minutes of grief. They had to try to throw in the the little story with the alien. But here they didn't even try. Like, they're just like, nope, just sit with it. So I respect it for that, absolutely.
Yeah, and to be honest, I forgot about the Jack Crusher stuff until you brought it up, and that's how strong the stuff with Picard and his brother was for me. We're like, the good stuff is so good to me. We're like, all the bad, yeah, it's fine.
That's kind of how I feel about the Worf's parents stuff, where it's like I didn't really care for that either, but like it wasn't like offensive or it was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, that's good. It's good enough. I can look past it. But the Jack Crusher, I can't look past. I can't look past the Jack Crusher of it all.
Okay.
I don't know if I can explain why Starfleet means so much to me. Maybe you'll understand when you get this recording.
My number 3, The Mind's Eye. I love The Mind's Eye with the Geordi going into this show. I thought was going to be my favorite character, and it's nothing against LeVar Burton. It's not his fault. But in the first 3 seasons of the show, they gave him almost nothing. And when they would give him episodes, it's stuff like the Leah Brahms stuff, or him just not like having game, or like things like that. It's kind of silly. He had decent stuff here and there, but The Mind's Eye was really the first time that I was like, oh, Geordi gets an awesome episode where, it's not just, I'm a good engineer. It's like, he goes through this traumatic experience, and I loved getting to see through his visor again, but in a more extended sequence several times in this episode. And then how about just the beginning, the traumatizing look of him with his visor off, plugged into that Romulan machine, screaming.
The wide-angle lens that they used, the zoom, him in the elevator, all that was fantastic. But not on my list.
Not on your list?
Not on my list, sorry.
Yeah, but I really loved it. And the Klingons coming on board the Enterprise, and then we find out the new Klingon general guy is working, is the traitor to the Romulans. That was like a twist I never expected. And it really pushed forward this whole narrative of this 3-way potential war, Klingons, Romulans, and Starfleet, the Federation. It's like who's going to be the one to do it? It's like people are working with each other. The Klingons and Federation have this alliance, but then the Klingons are working with the Romulans. It's like, I really love the political intrigue of it all.
Take Commander LaForge into custody immediately.
Sir.
That is an order.
The Patrons number 3 had Redemption. So that's the second half, basically, of the episode I was just talking about, The Mind's Eye. Redemption, so as of recording this, we actually haven't even posted that on Patreon, let alone YouTube. So we haven't gotten the backlash from that yet. But we did not love Redemption. We liked it, but it's a good episode. But we did not huge pop at the end for the Tasha. But the actual episode itself, we had problems with, and I'm not surprised it's that high for them, but that's not on my list.
Not on my list either.
So
I think the bar was just set super high with previous Worf episodes, and that one came out. It didn't reach that level that I know it can go.
And that's the last discussion we did. So like, you can go watch that discussion if you haven't. I don't think we need to rehash that already.
No.
We need to say there. The Patrons number 2, speaking of Klingons, was Reunion. So they loved Reunion. I get it. I liked it. It's on both of our lists, at least that one is.
Yeah.
Obviously, they weren't. A lot of patrons did say they were also traumatized, at the time by the Kevlar death, but they've, had 30 years or however many years they've been watching Star Trek to get over it. So we're not there yet. But I'm glad to see the Worf episodes that high, regardless of what we think of him individually. He's still my favorite character. So up there with Data. So yeah, glad to see it. Okay. I said during the season for one of the episodes, right after we watched them, I said, this is my favorite episode of Star Trek ever up to this point. But it was pretty early in the season, so, we had the rest of the season to find out. Did any other episode surpass that?
Suddenly Human, really?
But the answer is no, it didn't. So number 2 is the Drumhead.
I won't treat a man as a criminal unless there is cause to do so.
I loved the Drumhead, and basically all 5 of these in my top 5 are all completely different, and they're all exactly what I would love, like in any Star Trek episode. I mean, Future Imperfect is like the weird, science, like out there sci-fi alien scenario. The Wounded with the political intrigue, the Mind's Eye with the political intrigue, and then the Drumhead is just that. We love core episodes, and this was the best one so far, the best Picard episode so far. His speeches in this, like Patrick Stewart, I think it was Ron Moore who wrote this one, or maybe Ron Moore and someone else. But just, I mean, you already talked about a lot of it, but man, how about when he triggers the lady and she starts screaming?
How dare you!
And the Admiral's just like, just leaves the room.
Oh yeah, he's like, I don't even think he had a line. Just,
or how about earlier on in the episode when they're manipulating Worf, and the Betazoid's like, we were worried about you being the security officer, but you've won over our confidence. We'll work well together. And then right when they're in the court, just
throw
right
him under the bus.
Just like, oh, isn't it kind of dangerous to have a Klingon traitor, or Klingon traitor or whatever, or it comes from a descendant of a traitor? And Worf just stands up. It's like, oh,
I can't trust these people. It's like, God, so good. It makes me so angry.
And I love just every time Worf goes to go in on someone, and they have to be like,
oh yeah.
Worf, no. Picard's like, I got this. Just dismantles him verbally. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
This is the episode I think this is A Measure of a Man, but I think even this one is they should show this in schools. If I was doing an English class, I remember in English class we would read The Crucible, and then they would show us like I watched the Crucible or the Scarlet Letter, with the woman with the A, and then even the Red Scare one with it's either De Niro. Yeah, De Niro. I forget what the movie's called, but they would show us those movies. I wish I had a teacher. Well, I'm glad they didn't, I guess. But I wish I had a teacher that showed the Drumhead, because what a way to hit home those messages. Is it a little black and white? Is it a little bit on the nose? A little bit, but it's just done so well.
Yes, I would hate to be a teacher, but if I was,
if you were forced to,
yeah, it's like no lesson plan today. We're watching. Got you for 50 minutes today, so we're gonna watch Measure of a Man today. We'll do the Drumhead tomorrow, and then we'll do what's another good one? The Bonding.
Bonding.
Yeah, nothing to do with.
You're relating them to the subject, but then when you get to the Bonding, you're like, just watch this one.
Just watch this, please. That'll be end of the year. Oh, let's watch Star Trek, and all the kids will complain. I don't want to watch this shit. It's like,
yeah,
shut up.
On their tablets.
First speech censured, the first thought forbidden, the first freedom denied, chains us all irrevocably.
Well, my number 2 is Remember Me.
I won't forget. I won't forget any of you.
Beverly episode just knocks it out of the park. So wonderful. The mystery of what's happening. Just little clues. That's what's going on. But just watching everyone disappear and having Beverly just, talk to the computer and figure it out. And then switch back to Wesley and the team figuring it out. They bring back the guy from season 1. That alien dude. It's like,
oh yeah, the Traveler.
Yeah, they bring back the Traveler. It's like, what is happening? And I think that was one of the first ones of season 4 where we're like, okay. It was pretty early on, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was episode 5, and I said it was my favorite Star Trek thing, period. So
yeah, it was like, okay, this is next level. We're in the end game now. Twice in one day I said that.
Before we get to your number 1, do you have any honorable mentions?
Yes, I have a couple honorable mentions. Future Imperfect, First Contact. I also, all these 4 are right on the cusp of the list. Ask me tomorrow, they could be on the list. The Mind's Eye and Redemption. So those are my 4 honorable mentions. Maybe not Redemption would make the list, but the first Future Imperfect, First Contact, Mind's Eye, they were right there.
Yeah, mine's very similar too. I would say Redemption. I would say Family because it is really good. I just didn't like the one part. Best of Both Worlds Part 2, I'm guessing, isn't on your list at that point. It's not on mine either.
It's not anywhere near.
I mean, honestly, I could sit here and name almost the rest of the season. That's how good it all is. I gotta at least mention Half a Life. I loved as well. You had on your list.
Yep.
First Contact I really wanted to get First Contact on there. And then Data's Day. I pushed out Data's Day for Brothers because I like Brothers just a little bit more because of the Brent Spiner of it all. You know, the three Brent Spiners, and Data's Day does have that little B story with the Romulan spy pretending to be a Vulcan. So I put Brothers at 10, and I pushed out Data's Day, but like some of the stuff in Data's Day will definitely stick with me. I mean, the obviously the stuff that you talked about with the Chief and his wedding, but then also like the dancing with Dr. Crusher, the picking out the wedding gift with Worf, like so many great things. The introduction of his cat, you know.
Data's cat, yeah. Yeah, I totally forgot about the Romulan Vulcan spy. It was one of those things like, oh, it's a Vulcan. I mean, oh, it's a Romulan.
Yeah, you knew right away based off of apparent orange skin that I still don't understand.
Like, maybe it's the TV, but it looks like their skin is orange.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy.
It's definitely looked like it in some episodes for sure, especially the one that lady was in, because she played a Romulan in season 2. So, and I get what you're saying there.
Especially the defector, like that guy, I forget his name, but the guy with the daughter.
Jorok?
Yeah, like he looked like he had an orange tint to him. I'm not crazy.
So for the patrons, their honorable mentions just missed their list was also First Contact. I feel like everyone really likes that episode, and it's just like not on the list. It's the bridesmaid, never the bride. Of the season.
I love that episode, but it's like it doesn't. It's a 10.5.
Yeah, it's such like a different type of episode too.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like the focus is almost like this alien species, you know, to a lot of it. But it's the best Prime Directive episode in my opinion, for sure. They also Half a Life was close for them. The Nth Degree is what just missed their list, and I was shocked by that because there was so much love for that episode.
Yeah, people were putting Barkley over like crazy. I'm surprised it wasn't on the list.
Yeah, I did want to I always love to point out just a couple other things from the patrons and putting their lists together. So, Suddenly Human, Final Mission, and The Host were the only 3 episodes with no votes whatsoever, was not on anybody's top 10 list.
Wait, Suddenly Human.
Final Mission, which was the Wesley one.
Okay.
And then The Host, unfortunately.
Oh, The Host again?
Yeah.
Damn.
It wasn't on yours either.
Yeah, true.
Also, I thought it was hilarious. Identity Crisis, which was a pretty good episode.
It's all right, yeah.
And then Cupid were the only 2 episodes with 1 single vote, meaning that it was number 10 on one person's list. So it got 1 vote. And then last thing I wanted to point out was Legacy and The Loss also got votes from only 1 person. So 1 person had The Loss number 8 on their list, and 1 person had Legacy as number 6 on their list.
We didn't talk about Legacy or The Loss at all this entire discussion.
It's that kind of season.
Yeah.
I like Legacy. I mean, this is such a dumb thing to bring up, but just like the camera work in Legacy, just like the going around Data's head, looks like Tasha comes down, her sister going around Data, and her perspective is changing as the camera goes around. Also, when they're doing the like tracking shots, and it's like a Metroid video game.
Yeah, the fight scene. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. One of my favorite endings too, with
him looking at the thing.
Yeah, as opposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So that's their honorable mentions. So you
number
can go
1.
in with number 1.
My number 1 from season 4 is the bonding from season 3. Here's the thing. I'm breaking the mold with number 1 because number 1 is a tie.
Oh, okay.
Number 1's a tie. And it's Clues and Night Terrors.
Now, who gave you that order? You did, sir.
Wow, okay.
Because 1, I feel like both episodes are very similar, both in being that I love both of them dearly so much, and both are very similar into that we don't figure out what's going on the entire time. We're like, what is going on? And then it's revealed later on. And I love both of them. I couldn't pick. I couldn't. They're both so similar. Like if one day's one, the other one's two. The next day, vice versa. So I'm like, you know what? I love all these episodes, most of these episodes so much. I'm gonna break the mold. TOS ending, not TOS. TNG season 3 ending with a cliffhanger broke the mold. I'm breaking the mold with the tier list.
Yeah.
I mean, not the tier list. The top 10. So yeah, Clues and Night Terrors, number 1.
First time ever, target audience, a tie, 2 number ones for Alex. I love it. Obviously, both were on my list. I love them both too. And I was assuming that you were just going to go with Clues. I thought you were leaving Night Terrors off your list. So that's, yeah.
No, I love Night Terrors. Yeah, well, obviously I love them both.
And this is what you do for fun.
It's a mystery. Who is this man?
My number one. It's the episode I said was my favorite of all time. It's Remember Me.
O'Brien, Geordi, Worf, Wesley, my son.
It's still my favorite Star Trek thing of all time. It's, it edges out This Side of Paradise from TOS, and it also edges out Search for Spock. It edges out all of the other episodes I absolutely loved in this season, like the Drumhead. The Drumhead is like, I want to write, like, I would read a full-length novel of, like, they make novelizations of episodes. Like, do that, but don't just do the episode. Like, I would read an extended full novel of just the Drumhead.
The extended edition.
Yeah, like, that's how much I love it. I would watch a feature film of the Drumhead, And so I love it. With that being said, though, Remember Me is, like, if I hadn't have watched this season yet and you said write a Star Trek episode, it would have been extremely close to this. I probably even would have brought back The Traveler just as a meme. So like it literally hit everything I would do. As obviously Beverly is a great character in my eyes, and also Gates McFadden is a great actress, and she knocks it out of the park. Her whole monologue scene to Picard about going through the crew on the ship and like Riker, and like saying all the traits of everyone is amazing. My favorite Star Trek shot of all time, the white light and then Wesley stepping in his shadow, and that's the reveal of what's going on, because we don't know up to that point.
Right,
that she's the spirit, and that's the reveal. Get goosebumps. It was like one of those experiences watching it, like kind of like what you had with The Bonding, and I'm sure other ones, where it's like, you're just like, it's like euphoric the whole time. You're like, I can't even watch it because I'm already too excited to talk about it after watching it, like halfway through the episode.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, but then I'm also like, don't end because it's so good that you don't want it. It's a one-off, it's episodic. So, not a single thing against that one.
Yeah, I love the whole, when everyone's disappearing and Beverly, and it's just Picard on the bridge by himself. Like, oh, let me guess, it's just, I forget what she says, but it's like, just you and I, huh? Oh, we've never needed a crew. It's like, I love everyone's changing as people disappear. It's like, oh, where's the rest of my staff? We've never needed the medical staff before. It's like, oh, how many people are on the ship? Oh, we've always only had 200. I love all that little stuff. So great.
And I love the consistent gaslighting. Like every time it changes, they're acting like she's crazy, and so many reveals with that. Like, why would over 1,000 people? I don't have my own staff. There's only 400 people on this ship. Like, just so many beyond belief type moments.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're all on her side for so long, even when what she's saying to them is so crazy, but they all believe her.
Yes.
Like, they trust her.
It's like they're acting within the canon of who they are as a person, but the background stuff changes. Like, they still are who they are, but they just take away that stuff. Like, oh, there's actually only 400, and they just adjust. But they still know all the same people. It's not something where it's like they're all acting weird. Like Picard, I think it was last season, where he's like, going like this, where it's like, that's not right. But they're all acting within themselves, within the situation, which makes it so great.
You're telling me I'm the sole medical officer on a ship with over 1,000 people on board?
The entire ship's complement is 230.
Really quick, picking this list was extremely hard, to where I put it off until literally like an hour. You know what I mean? Because I already knew like what would be in the top 12, 13. Just ironing out those details was super hard. But after saying the lists, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, and I think, our number ones this season, it's just like a perfect example of what we are looking for in this show. And like, just as an example for me, with Remember Me, like, why do I love the Twilight Zone? Why was I hooked by the Man Trap? Like, yeah, it's the sci-fi stuff, and it's the particulars about this show, but also we are who we are, and it's like I love the goofy stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it will always be part of why I love these types of shows: Star Trek, Twilight Zone, fucking, Tales from the Crypt, whatever it is. And like, just an example of that is just like Beverly, walking in to the bridge and just Picard,
Yeah, just standing there.
standing there. And it's like it's so fucking goofy, but it's like amazing. It's just like amazing because it's so good. Like not in a so bad it's good way, but it's just so good. Like just like in the Man Trap, the reveal of the monster, and then grabbing Kirk's face and Spock punching it. It's like it's so out of bounds of reality that it's like this is amazing, and that's why I love Star Trek. So it's like that's what kind of makes the perfect episodes to me. But then that's why this season overall was so impressive, because in the same season you had this court drama, in the Drumhead, all of the political intrigue, that I never thought would have been in Star Trek. Like, just I remember way back in Court Martial in TOS when like Kirk went into the one bar area and you saw like all these other Starfleet members for the first time, and I was like, man, how awesome would it be if like they actually built this out? And it's like now they've fucking done it.
They've done it, yeah.
And now if there's a scene where they go into 10 forward and there's all these other Starfleet people, like I wouldn't even question it. Like it would just like it's gotten there, And I'm jealous of the people who got to in their lifetime see that progression. I mean, I guess I'm not jealous because it's been cool to see it over the course of 2 years, but to see that is like,
as opposed to 20 years at this point.
30, yeah, 30 years. Well, yeah, a little over.
Yeah, what, 66?
20, I guess. Yeah, 25 years. Yeah.
66 to what, 91?
Yeah, 25 years. Yeah, but just to see that has been amazing, and it's given me everything I've wanted from the outset, from the beginning. I've gotten everything I wanted from it, and now it's introducing me to new things that I didn't even know I wanted.
Yeah, the season took huge swings with huge hits, with completely new concepts of TV shows. Or episodes where it's like, this is new, this is great. Picked up on our criticisms from the earlier seasons, but also like just finessing and mastering already established things like court dramas and stuff like that, and finishing stories from earlier on. It's just they've done so well. And while it's still fresh in my head, never forget that the first episode of TOS, The Man Trap, has a scene where Spock double fists a woman in the face multiple times. Like, yes, we know it's like the Salt of Empire or whatever, but still, just like, oh, let me see what's on. Boom, boom, boom. Just the balls.
Yeah, and it's like, it just makes me feel like, wow, I was so ignorant about this franchise before we started watching it. Like, because like we said, like we saw the JJ movies when they were coming out, and like I don't really remember them, but like I remember just like, oh, okay, this is Star Trek. I know that's not Star Trek, at this point, but like that's what I thought. And then even things like Discovery or Picard, or, like whatever it is, like before we started watching the show, like if someone had asked me like, oh, like about Star Trek, like I would have been like, yeah, I mean, I get it, but no, I didn't. Like I did not understand. But on the other side, though, it's made my bar for television so high that it's like I truly think we were kind of stuck in like, I don't know. Do you like watch TV now? And I feel like if it's not as good as Star Trek, like what am I doing? Like it's just like so many shows are just like inferior. Not just modern, but even stuff we've tried to watch for the channel. And it's like we loved, Firefly, and there are things that we've liked, but like so many things I'm like, it's just in this box, and it's just like Star Trek can be whatever it wants to be while still being Star Trek, and it's just amazing. Like the one thing I hope never happens, or at least doesn't happen for a long time, is like don't get stuck in a box. Like don't think that like, oh, we're Star Trek, we have to do this. It's like just you can do whatever you want. Like that's what's so amazing to me.
Yeah, Star Trek is my bar for television now. It's like everything it's going to compare or measure up to that. That's the way it is now. And it's funny because I think about when I first thought of Star Trek, like you're talking about, I thought TOS was a 15-minute goofy show. And you even said like, oh, like 15 minutes. And you said like, no, it's 50 minutes. I'm like, 50 minutes? I'm like, what? And I'm like, how's this goofball shit 50 minutes? And you put on The Man Trap. It's like, oh, that's how. That was amazing. Yeah. And then our lives changed forever. But no, and that's the great thing about Star Trek is like it can never be stuck on that box. At least I hope not. Maybe with New Trek, maybe. But it's like the infinite possibilities that are out there and stories to be told and just stuff that happens in real life that we can pull from, draw inspiration from, and create this brand new story where maybe someone like me won't know what it's referencing to, but someone else like, oh, that's a metaphor for blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But they can hide it and disguise it so well where it feels like it's completely insane new idea. It's just amazing to me. It's yeah, and I think this season in particular took the biggest swings, biggest risks, and has reaped the highest benefits of being one of the best seasons of television ever so far.
And we have 3 more of just this show, and this is the last. This is weird to say, but this is the last season of Star Trek ever. That's it. No.
Oh,
No,
it is.
This is the last season of Star Trek, at least for a long time. That this is all we're going to be watching this season. So, like, what I mean by that is, like, last season we watched Star Trek 5 in the middle. Next season is Star Trek 6 in the middle of the season. Then after that, DS9 starts, and from then until we finish Voyager, there's going to be at least 2 things going on at once. So,
4 was just all on its own, huh?
4, yeah, it was just season 4. So that's never going to happen again until I think Voyager ends, like Voyager ends and then Enterprise starts and it's just Enterprise. So until we get to that point where it's just Voyager ending, like this is never happening again. So I mean, season 5 it's just Star Trek 6, so like it's kind of similar, but
Yeah.
just like the purity of our journey so far, it's just kind of like starting to come to the end. But like I'm so glad that we got this season. Like this season has set a new bar, and it's like I don't know. Part of me is like really really excited, of course, but then part of me is like, good luck,
Yeah, I thought like measuring up to season 3, like good luck season 4. Then we watched season 4, like oh shit. So now I'm like, good luck season 5.